of the Métis Nation of Saskatchewan. I'm also a survivor of human trafficking. My trafficking began in Canada and crossed into the United States. I was stalked, hunted, and ignored by the very systems that were meant to protect me. This is why, with my father, Dale Richardson, we started the CARES Project, an Indigenous survivor-led movement for humanity. We are dedicated to exposing human trafficking, government corruption, and holding institutions accountable. The judicial branch is broken. It has failed to restrain the evils that have come upon this republic. Whether it's family court failures, weaponization of the judiciary, COVID-era harms, or human trafficking, the courts have allowed these issues to continue unchecked for too long. One of the most powerful tools we're using is the Petition for Redress of Grievances. These are lawful constitutional actions rooted in the founding principles of this country. On May 19, 2026, a formal petition for redress of grievances was submitted to the United States Congress. This petition is demanding that Congress and the President use the powers under Article 4, Section 4 to preserve this Republican form of government by restraining these abuses pending congressional investigation. Through the CARES Project Action Plan, we are mobilizing people across the United States to strengthen this effort. This petition has been created as a template. If you or someone you love have been hurt by these same systemic failures in the courts or by government institutions, your evidence matters. When you come forward, please bring your evidence along with a copy of the Petition for Redress of Grievances. This helps connect your story to this growing constitutional record being placed before Congress. We are asking you to stand with us. Join the CARES Project Action Plan and help us build a precedent that demands accountability and protects the God-given rights of American families. Our united voices will compel Congress to uphold the Constitution and safeguard our liberties. United we stand, one nation under God. I will close with my favorite quote. The greatest want of the world is the want of men. Men who will not be bought or sold. Men who in their inmost souls are true and honest. Men who do not fear to call sin by its right name. Men whose conscience is as true to duty as the needle to the pole. Men who will stand for the right, though the heavens may fall. Thank you.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the CARES Project podcast. Today we have with us Jessica Saxton again to talk about some updates of what's going on and, with all the stuff that's going on with you and the fight for the children. So welcome back to the show and introduce yourself.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. My name is Jessica Saxton. I'm the founder of Justice Without Limits, even though I say all the time that this movement is Operation We the People, and that Justice Without Limits is just a mechanism that was given to me years ago, before it is what it is today, and it was placed basically in my lap by God to be used for this time and this purpose. So thank you for having me again.
All right. So, yeah, there's been a lot been going on since the last time we talked. You want to kind of catch us up on a little bit of what you've been doing in the last few weeks?
Yes. So we have effectively been able to, county by county, there's 4 counties in particular that we've been able to investigate. And the things that I'm going to tell you are very surface level. So feel free, viewers, to let your mind kind of run as far as investigative work is concerned. We've effectively been able to tie sheriff's departments, the judicial branch, attorneys, guardian ad litems, clerk of courts, and other county administrators into what I would consider, and what other people in law enforcement would consider to be, the criminal conspiracy that we've all been talking about for many years. A lot of this is, I would say, atypical investigation for citizens to do, but we do have confirmation. This is very important for your listeners. we do have confirmation from people who matter that say that we as the citizens, we have more investigative power than most of three-letter agencies. So three-letter agencies and their agents, to some degree, are capped as to what they are able to go and investigate. Now, when I say investigation, I'm not a PI, I'm not licensed to do anything. Everything that we have gathered is what you call OSINT, which is open source intelligence, meaning that you, me, neighbor down the street, we all have access to this type of information. And so the problem that we run into is people being willing and able to go out into their county and get this information. And that's one of the things that Justice Without Limits is attempting to inspire, educate, advocate, and assist individuals in being able to go and do the same type of investigation in their local county.
So you're saying that people should go in and investigate in their local counties. What would you suggest to people if they want to start digging into what is going on, like with the corruption? Because a lot of people are dealing with this. So what would you suggest?
I would suggest, so let's consider how our government works. They're all buddies, they're all pals, right? They all hang out together, they drink together, they golf together, they do everything together at that local level. So what we should really be doing is working with our local neighbors, the people that we trust, the people that are kind of in this same fight, whether they're in family court, juvenile court, dependency and neglect, probate court, criminal court. So reach out to those people in your community and start building a relationship for multiple reasons. I'll get into this in a second, but for multiple reasons. Really and truly, the magic number, I would say, that was recently confirmed is 6. And so if you can get 6 people in your county, it doesn't have to be before the same judge, but just 6 people in your county who can prove deprivation of rights under the color of law, that is Title 18 USC subsection 242, deprivation of rights under the color of law, and conspiracy to deprive of rights, that's 18 USC 241. If you can get 6 people in your county to confirm that the judges that you were before deprived you of your rights and conspired with someone else to deprive you of your rights, then what we can do is we can collectively take that information, produce a dossier, which dossier is just a fancy word for a long document. You know, Dale and his daughter has been producing a dossier, is what that is, for the redress of grievances. So we can produce a dossier outlining all of the crimes that have happened to you and your family, and we can take that to the appropriate federal agency and submit that as evidence, deprivation of rights under the color of law, and conspiracy to deprive of rights, and attempt to get that county under investigation.
Yes, and so what with people like some people are ready to throw their hands up in the air because they're like, well, everybody's corrupt, so we can't do anything about it, and so forth. But that is what allows people to get away with what they're doing. So what would you, for example, say to somebody who had their law enforcement, for exactly in some cases, are involved in doing the crime? So what do you say to that? What do you say to that?
Document it. Document everything that you can. Never underestimate the power of your phone and any other type of recording device. And I've said this maybe on your podcast the last time, but when you consider the Second Amendment, the right to bear arms, back when it was written, the right to bear arms clearly meant some type of black powder. That's what they intended at that time. However, the United States Supreme Court has consistently said that the Constitution should evolve with technology. They've confirmed this. So if we were to consider the Second Amendment and our right to bear arms to protect ourselves against a tyrannical government, then we would have to say that our phones, our recording devices, especially in situations where the government's recording us, we have a right to record them. We have a right, Second Amendment right, to record and document crimes that are happening right in front of our faces. And so we're pressing hard on this to be sure that we can have phones and recording devices inside our hearings. These judges have been operating behind closed doors, behind the children. You know, they seal a case, they close cases. I was in Tennessee just a few weeks ago, and one of the judges, he called me up, he swore me in. I was literally there to watch court. Now, granted, in Tennessee, I'm a little bit targeted because I've been calling out Tennessee for many months, but he called me to the front, he swore me in, and then he started asking me why I was there. And I'm like, I'm just here to exercise my right to a public hearing. He's like, well, this isn't a public hearing because it's about children. I'm like, oh, okay. So you guys can just close the doors, throw out any type of court watcher because you want to hide behind the children. It's the most disgusting thing that I've ever seen in my life. Anyway, that being said, for the people that were allowed to be in court that day, I wish that they would have had either the lack of fear or the confidence to be able to stand on, hey, Mr. Judge, hey, Miss Judge, I have a Second Amendment right. Are you here today willing to infringe upon that right in open court and not allow me to bear an arm, which is my recording device, in order to protect me from tyranny? So there's a lot of different things that we're pushing, I think, collectively. It's not just me, it's not just you. There's a lot of people that are feeling this, a lot of people that are coming out, being removed from that fear that has held them captive for literally decades. We're seeing this collectively across the board. And so just want to encourage people that if you have been scared for years, now's not the time to be scared. We're starting to see a lot of law enforcement officers from within that are starting to blow the whistle on the good old boy system, on the people that they've been working with or taking orders from. And now they're standing up and they're like, yeah, I'm not doing this anymore. I didn't swear an oath to the sheriff. I swore an oath to the United States Constitution, and that's what I'm going to follow. So did I answer your question?
Yeah, and I think that people have to understand that, yes, you need a document, but then you also need to do something with it. Because if you're corrupt, then you have to get someone else to deal with the corruption in your area. Because some areas are worse than others. And in smaller places, they seem to have a lot more control. So then this is where taking the different pathways, because there's going to have restraint come on these people. And it needs to come very fast, because when people sit down and say that, oh, well, this will take time, I'm like, well, what's happening to all these children that are getting raped and destroyed, right? Like, I mean, every day it's worse, but if you're sitting down saying, oh, well, it's going to take a few years, well, what's going to happen when, a child's with a few years with pedophiles, and how many children are there, and the amount and the widespread nature of this, how many children are going to be like destroyed over that period of time? Because they don't need forever. They just need enough to destroy the generation mentally.
That's true. I didn't think about that. I think that collecting the evidence, you're right, that is just a first step. But if you don't have that evidence, you have nowhere to go. After the evidence is collected, I have been telling the people that join our Zooms, especially, and some of our core leaders, you need to document this and then save all of that evidence in multiple places, in multiple different varieties of saving a document. So whether that's on a cloud or multiple clouds, flash drives, and then if it's something that you can print, you definitely want to start printing this stuff out. And then keeping those flash drives and the material in multiple different locations, so that if you are raided, I mean, we have people that are swatted all the time. And when I say all the time, I'm talking about every day. They're swatted, their houses are raided, and many times they have no warrant. These officers are not even told why they're going there to SWAT these homes. They don't know what they're looking for. But in the event that you have one flash drive with all of your evidence and that flash drive's taken, it's gone. It literally is gone, everything you've been working for. So multiple locations in multiple forms, and don't underestimate these people, because I think that we're being effective at this. We're effectively taking down a system that was set up, one, for failure, and two, to come against the people in such a time as this. So just don't underestimate your enemy. I don't. Everything that I've collected, we have it saved in multiple locations across multiple servers, multiple flash drives. print form when that's an option, and then everything else. I mean, so they'll never be able to get rid of the evidence that I have at this point.
Well, and I mean, it needs to be, yes, everybody has to make sure that you secure evidence, because if you don't have any evidence, then you don't have a case. And like, they'll just try to brush you off like you're nuts and be like, oh, well, whatever. Because that seems to be the common theme here, is what ends up happening when they're too problematic. They will say that you're crazy, or they will try to put you in prison, or whatever the case may be. So you want to make sure that that evidence is there, and then get to put it where it needs to go. And this is one of the things that we're doing, is putting the congressional record so that they can do something with it. And I think most of the politicians are corrupt. Don't get me wrong, but at the end of the day, there comes a time where the politicians need to start fearing the people more than they fear the people that are behind them. And that's really what it is. And that's never going to happen while you sit down on your hind parts, because when you go in and start recording what's going on, taking notes, taking pictures, people are going to start getting squeamish, or more people start doing it because they want to keep everything quiet. Then they get upset. And then you just keep going with that. You don't just stop there, because then you start taking to the people that should be dealing with this, like your local sheriffs, your police officers, your local politicians, your state politicians, your U.S. politicians. You need to take it to everybody, so everybody knows, and put it in their face, and don't let them off easy, right? Just be persistent.
Absolutely. You know, when you consider animals and you have like a dog that's attacking a human, in a lot of cases, when that human, you know, stands up to that dog, the dog will back down, right? These people are no different. And so when they sense that you are timid, when they sense that you are fearful, that they may be able to intimidate you in some way, a lot of times it actually gets worse, and they'll bite harder, they'll snap a little bit more. And so and I've seen this personally. I mean, when I was calling Blount County, Tennessee courthouse last year, this time, versus now, it's a whole different situation. When I called now, they don't answer with disgust, like, or disdain, like, you know, I don't have time to answer you. I don't have time to talk to you. You know, you need to call this person. You need to call that person. No, no, no. Now when I call, they answer the phone. Hello, Miss Saxton. How can I help you today? I mean, no joke. I have the recordings to prove it. And so I think that we're starting to change kind of the mindset in the people, which is one of the reasons why I've been pushing and asking people, go to your county commission meeting. Even if, you know, some people are like, county commission meeting and providing the notices, it's not going to do anything. I beg to differ. One of the things that I have seen it doing, and I've seen this because I'm receiving the testimonials from these people. One of the things that it's doing is providing power back to the people. It's reminding the person that's there before the county commission, they have 3 to 5 minutes most of the time to say their piece, talk about what's going on in their county, whether it's with the judges, the juvenile court, the police officers, the sheriff. You got your 3 minutes. But it's doing so much more than just mere communication. It's literally rebuilding the person, reminding the person who they are within society, and that we, the people, have the power. And so this is preparing, and I believe that it's effectively preparing people to go before court. As we see the pro se litigant or self-representation, it's rising in America, the most that it ever has been since the bar was established. And we're providing these people with a practice run, essentially, in public speaking, in standing before someone who traditionally we perceive them as having the power. They have the final vote, they have the final say in everything that happens in our county and our cities. And so we're kind of switching that a little bit, giving the power back to the people, allowing them to practice before they go into court. When you consider the county commissioners and your city council, how everything is laid out as far as the architecture of the property in the room, it's just like going into court. So it's a perfect place for self-represented litigants to go and practice, you know? And so I think that I think that overall, we're just seeing a massive rise, not only publicly through advocates and people that are fine and okay speaking and doing what you're doing, but just the neighbor down the street who you wouldn't think would ever get up in front of anyone and say their piece. Now they're like, yeah, I'm going to go do that. So I think that we're in a very interesting time here. And I don't think that this is a time that history is going to forget.
No, and I think that what people have to understand when they're going into any public place, the people that are there, they work for you. You're the one who actually has the power because they're only doing their position because you let them, right? And when you don't agree with what they're doing and you don't like what they're doing, you have the power to get them out. And because that's the way it works. It's a representative form of government. And if they're doing something wrong, then they don't belong there anyway. So stop thinking that they are above you. Yes, the office of it is a position of authority, but their authority comes from the people and they're there to do your will. So keep that in mind when you're talking to them, because it's like you're walking in and you're the boss and you're telling your employees, your servants, that they did the wrong job.
Yep, absolutely. I concur. And I would like for people, if you do have 3 minutes, I would say use that 3 minutes to the best of your ability. So go ahead and practice before you go in. Some of the things that I have recently started talking about is specific to individual judges. So when I go into a county commission meeting, I will most likely be calling out a judge. And it's not because I just Googled a judge in that county and I'm just going to decide to, randomly call out a name. It's because I have received evidence that this judge has acted criminally in their position against one or more people in that county. And so, a lot of this is also about public awareness and really just bringing people within that county together. Because when you consider how, let's take any war, for instance. I mean, the Middle East. I was just watching a documentary on the Middle East and, some of this terrorism and stuff that was going on. They actually built the terrorist groups with little small pockets of nobodies. These people didn't know anything. They were literally recruited for the same mission. And because of that same mission, they were able to band together, protect each other, and then go out and unfortunately literally execute. But basically we can take that same strategy and apply it to what we're doing here, except it's just going to be lawfully and peacefully. And don't underestimate the power of your neighbor. Another reason why I'm trying to build these teams locally across the country is because in most states, you have what is called next of friend filing. And as we see, there's a pretty consistent pattern across all of the states where families that went into family court did not have any type of criminal charges, but post family court, everybody's a criminal. Everybody's been to jail. Everybody's been arrested. Something to that degree. And some of them are felony charges, and not felony charges for the right thing, like, molesting a child. It's more because somebody was able to trump up some charges along the way. What we need to do is just kind of like a forward looking. And one of the things that I'm seeing here is that as we build these teams locally across all 3,143 counties in America, this is going to allow you to have a small pocket of friends that can file a habeas corpus on your behalf, given that you are able to prove to the court that this is a next of friend, right? Or that friend can prove to the court that this is next of friend. And so, just like you, Dale, you talk with a lot of people, you have a lot of friends that are kind of in this movement that would be a higher target for having these charges or being incarcerated in some manner, as am I. And so because of that, I feel like that in multiple states, I can file next of friend. My problem is that I don't have enough time to do that all across the board. And so we need to start kind of replicating that within the local county so that other people can start doing it on behalf of others. And then we all have each other's back in the
Yes.
event that we're arrested.
Yes. And I mean, there are things that people can do to help expedite the process. Like I deal with things that generate documents very quickly because I've had to compile thousands of documents over these last few years. And so I found ways to make it go a lot faster. But you still need to know what you're doing. But at the end of the day, if you're in a pinch, then you can get them to put some stuff together for you rather than having to do it manually. And like putting the appendices together is always the worst. But at the end of the day, people need to know what they're doing. This is why I did what I was doing, and I didn't charge people for teaching them this because these are skills that everybody needs to know. When people don't know what the law is or what your constitution says or how it works, you're going to get abused. And that's what happens. Most people don't understand. They're like, okay, we have all these rights, but they're abstract to them in the manner that they don't understand what it needs to take to enforce it or apply it or any of that stuff. And the perfect example is here in Canada. I mean, people are they don't understand it. They're just like, oh, well, the government can do that. I'm like, really? The government only does that because you let them do it, because you do nothing. You feel like you could do nothing. And they want you to feel like that way because then they can get away with doing things. Because when all this stuff will end, we'll say, when the people says, we're done, that's really it. They can't say no to us.
Right. Yeah, I agree. One of the things that saddens me the most is when the neighbor who has not yet been afflicted by the system doesn't care. And, it's really sad. And I can't say that I wasn't one of them because I probably was at one point. I believed in the system and I was like, well, if you were arrested, you must have done something wrong. If you lost your kids, obviously you're a child abuser. And that is so far from the truth. It's disgusting. And so, part of this is also just educating the neighbor who has not yet been faced with CPS, because I can tell you what, right now, with the climate that we're living in, especially in America, in Canada, multiple other places, if Child Protective Services shows up at your door, I would say 98% of the time, it's too late. Meaning they're going to take your children, they're going to run you through the ringer, your savings account, what you've been working for, your home, your vehicles. You might as well just count them gone, because the system will deprive you so much. They'll send you through all of these judicial backbends and flips and things that you have to do, paying for reunification therapy. And I mean, it sounds crazy. It sounds like a conspiracy theory, but I have 90,000 families who would say otherwise. And so, I think that as a collective, we just need to figure out how we can adequately educate our neighbors. Say, hey, did you know that you can take your child to school when they're in the 4th grade? And it's very likely that CPS comes in, a social worker comes in, talks with your child, and you will not see that child until after graduation, when they turn 18. Because it happens every day. It
Yeah.
literally happens every day in America.
Yes, it does. And people have to understand that this is a big issue, and it's an issue that affects everybody, because people have to understand the way the concept of liberty works. Liberty only works if your neighbor has it. If you're 20 people around and they took somebody's liberty in front of your face and you stood there and did nothing, guess what? You all agreed by doing nothing that you consent to having privileges. And then the government's just going to come back and come at you one by one until you guys are all bending the knee to the state, which is not the way that's supposed to work. Right?
Yeah, that is so true.
Let's just take
Would they be an accomplice to the crime?
Yeah,
Because,
yes.
think about it. If I watched someone murder someone else and I did nothing about it, they would charge me.
Yeah, you can't
Also.
stand there. You can't stand there and let people do crimes and do nothing. You can't. That's
Yeah.
very problematic, right? And it's like you're letting them get away with this. Just let's take a short break and we got to play a commercial. We'll be right back.
Terrio, co-founder of Mark37.com. I spent my career in Silicon Valley working for high-tech infrastructure companies, and I've witnessed firsthand the surveillance apparatus they've built. Most of you already know we're in a digital war right now, but are you really aware that we're trying to fight this war with the weapons and tools of the enemy? That Android or iPhone in your pocket? That MacBook or Windows laptop? It's a tracking device feeding everything you say and do to companies that want you under their control or eliminated entirely. Every text, call, location, even how long you pause on a post, they track it all and use complex algorithms to then use this data to manipulate your behavior. If you knew someone hacked your devices and was selling your data without your consent, you'd be furious and terrified. So why are you okay with these companies doing this to you right now? Here's what they don't want you to know. There is another way. At Mark37.com, we offer phones, laptops, tablets, and even basic flip phones, all running systems big tech can't access unless you explicitly give them access. And what's even better is you also don't need to sacrifice productivity. I'm one of thousands of geeks mobilized across this country, building tools and providing education and support to help you live anonymously online before they enforce digital ID. Go to mark37.com. Sign up for a free 30-minute digital privacy consultation. Join hundreds of thousands who have decided to stop feeding their data to companies actively working to enslave us. Take back your communications. Take back your data. And may God bless you on your journey.
Yeah, so if anybody wants to go to mark37.com, you can use the promo code CARES and get a 5% discount. I got myself one of the ghost phones because I don't like them taking my data. And I live in communist Canada where the government will go to the big companies and take your data, or they'll just send the police and take it without warrant, because they said that they tracked during COVID 33 million cell phones without warrant. That's a lot of crime, right? So, yeah. People need to protect themselves. So, kind of back
And
to what. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I talked to Sean really fast. I talked to Sean, and he was such a pleasant individual to speak with. And he basically gave me that free consultation. And just in the 30-minute conversation that we had, he already was pinpointing ways that I'm epically failing at, digital security. So please, if anybody's listening, just go and talk. Sign up for that free consultation. You will not regret it, for sure.
Oh, yes, because at the end of the day, we have to protect our information. I mean, at some points, they will get access to us at some point, but we want to make it very difficult for them. We need to put up resistance at every turn, right? Because, I mean, they can spy on you in public, but at the end of the day, make them work. Don't hand over anything to them. And kind of going back to this and so forth. So what you talked about, the investigations and so forth. So you said that they had different counties involved under investigation by like federal agencies.
No, not so. All I was saying is that I did get confirmation that you need 6 people, that's basically 6 victims within a county kind of saying the same thing about some judges will help to spark an investigation at a federal level. Because for whatever reason, one off doesn't matter. They want to see the patterns within the counties. And so with that, we have the names of 3,000 judges, a little over 3,000 judges, and attached to those judges are 3,000 plus victims. And when I say plus, because most of the parents that submitted this evidence are one, if sometimes both parents, and then you have the child victims. And so if you consider that an average household in America has, 2.5 children, so 2.5 children, so we'll just say 2. So you're looking at 3, on average, 3 victims for every judge that I have that's named. That's a lot of crimes. And when you have the adults that are willing to testify under penalty of perjury that these judges have violated their rights and conspired with others in that county to violate their rights, that's a big number. I mean, technically we have over 4,000 individuals that submitted this evidence, but 1,000 of those, a little less than 1,000 of those, were duplicates within the same counties. So we pretty much have America covered when you consider there's 3,143 counties in America. Very interesting times, interesting data that we've been able to collect over the last couple of months. We still have that survey opened up. If you have not completed the survey, and this is the same survey, guys, it's the same one, so please do not bog down the data. If you have already completed the national survey on Justice Without Limits, do not do it again. If you have not, please go ahead, go to justicewithoutlimits.org. On the homepage, just scroll down just a little bit. It's right under the Zoom link. Click on that link. You'll be able to go, and it's a very brief survey. It's not going to take you 40 minutes. You could literally do it in less than 10 minutes. I think it's like maybe 6 questions. We did add really fast. So we did add Washington, D.C. to that survey because that was not included. And we added all of the United States territories. So like Puerto Rico, Cuba, some of the other islands that for whatever reason, I did not consider them. We're expanding that into the U.S. territories.
The funny thing when you mentioned about the 6 people to complain about a judge to get something, the matter looked at by somebody in a 3-letter agency. I was getting people to do this before. I got a lot of resistance, and I'm doing something